All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Pokemon Masterclass. My guest today, he's a big-time collector and also an up-and-coming YouTuber. Please welcome to the podcast, Joe from Echo Base Collectables. Joe, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on, Nav. Super excited. Super excited to join everyone. Awesome.
Yeah, this is a long time in the making as well, man. You had reached out to me a while back, and I know you've been busy. I've been busy as well, and it's good to finally see this come to fruition.
Yeah, super excited. I reached out to Nav a long time ago. When I got back into the hobby, he's one of the first channels I found, and just listening to the knowledge and depth that he has, he's just one of the people that I wanted to talk to. I've been able to come on a couple other channels and meet some of my other people that I look up to, and he was like one of the last on my list. But yeah, super awesome. I reached out and he was super friendly, super welcoming, just like, yeah, let's work out a time. It'll happen eventually, and here we are. So
Yeah,
can't wait.
and I
Cool.
told him to say all of that, all those compliments about me before we started.
No.
But yeah, it's
um,
good. It's good to have you here, man. And I know exactly what you mean, which I take that as a sincere compliment that you think that highly of myself and the channel, because I've had the opportunity myself to speak with many people on this podcast that I've looked up to over the last 6 years since I got back into the hobby. People that really reignited my passion for Pokemon. People that taught me a lot of what I know today about the hobby, and so I completely understand what it's like to have that full circle experience.
yeah. Um, should I maybe go over a little bit about where I'm coming from, or
Definitely. Yeah, that's what I was going to jump into here
okay.
first and foremost. Just go ahead and give everybody just a little bit of background on yourself. What made you jump onto YouTube? What got you into collecting Pokemon? The full gamut.
Yeah, cool. So I've been collecting and playing at a high level since the card game came out in 1999. Back in the day, I so like everyone, when we saw Red and Blue, I got the Pokemon games from GameStop. Had a local card shop. Stopped in one night. So I used to collect baseball cards and other collectible card games, and saw the actual cards for Pokemon and decided to pick up some, and I was hooked instantly. This was back in high school, so I'm 38. So I was a freshman in high school when this came out, when back in 99, 98. And it didn't take very long for me to, once you have a bunch of these cards, to want to figure out how to actually play the game behind the cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined the local, Toys R Us League. Had my mom drive me. Went there and got got handed my butt to me by some 8-year-olds. So I'm a fairly competitive person. High school sports, varsity, was in chess club, did a lot of things. So I like very analytical, mathematical person. So I immediately came home and was like, okay, I really need to figure out how to play this game. So long story short, I got into competitive play. Our league moved a couple times. I met some of my now longtime friends, some of the older crowd. Got into actually running the league. Um, Hooked up with Mike Martin, Pokepop, who he's from Team Compendium. So he was responsible for all the ruling interactions for all the cards with Wizards back in the day. So he actually lives not that far from me. So our league turned out to be his league, and he would need judge support for tournaments. So I became his judge, which then led me eventually to actually running and organizing the tournaments. I've judged nationals a couple times. Not head judge, but judge nationals.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Worlds 3 times, placed top 16 3 times. Went to the Fan Appreciation Tournament, which was the transition between Nintendo and Wizards, which was amazing. Placed 10th, got enough product to leave with a pallet jack, literally on a pallet jack of product. That's some stories unto itself. That was the most interesting time. I learned so much going to that tournament in 2001, 2002. I forget the exact year. Met all the high level people at Wizards, Mike Bowser. And really got to talk to him. Actually got to talk to a lot of the early people that were responsible for the transition into Nintendo. They actually tried to recruit me to help run organized play because they had no idea about any. I mean, Nintendo never ran organized play for anything before. They really didn't know what they were doing. They wanted me to move out to Seattle though, and I'm from New Jersey, so that was a no-go back then. Looking back, hindsight's 2020. I always wonder what would have happened if I actually took them up on that offer. But so fast forward, some stuff in life happened. I exited the game for personal reasons around 2014. So then I have a rather large personal collection, let's say. I always liked to hunt down extremely rare trophy cards. Like I liked having the stuff that no one else had, even back then. I mean, I have eBay printouts of some of the like tropical mega battle level trophy cards, the Kangaskhan trophy cards, that were selling on eBay for like $500, $600, $700 back then. I mean, it's crazy. Where we went from then to where we are now. So when I got back into the only reason I got back into this to start was I made my wife a promise that when we moved that I would start, this was back in August of last year, that I would start to look into selling off my Pokemon collection for space saving reasons. And the more I started looking at doing that, the more I fell in love with my cards again. And I was like, I can't part with them. I just can't. Not to mention looking at the prices of everything. I had no idea of the boom that occurred. I mean, I got right back into looking at this stuff right before Logan Paul, but even before that, we were on an upswing. And I was oblivious to that because I had tuned myself out from Pokemon. I missed all of XY. I missed all of Sun and Moon. So when I was getting back into it and learning everything again, I was like, the first thing I did is I just went right on eBay and just typed in Pokemon, went to completed listings and sorted by highest. And I was like, wow, this is insane. These are my cards from my childhood and they're worth what now? Like, this is insane. So it made me take a different approach to this. Instead of just offloading everything, I was like, okay, let me take a step back, because the other aspect is that I really did miss the league. I missed the competitive aspect of this, and I missed my friends. So I changed my mindset to, well, let me try and get back into organized play. Let me try and get that part of my life back that I missed, and let me try and do it in a way where I don't have to pay for it, basically. If I can use my collection that I have to fund my endeavors, back into the game, basically I can collect again for free, is the way I was looking at it. The more I started to try to buy modern product, though, I just came up short. I have vlogs where I would go around to Target, to Walmarts, to GameStops every Saturday, wasting an entire Saturday just trying to buy cards. And it just left me so disheartened and just down. Like, this is not what I remember this game to be. And that started to, pull me into YouTube and watching people open packs and just reading E4 again and reading what's actually going on with the game and the community and how hard this is with modern, with what's going on, which led me to wanting to open a distributor license, get a distributor license, open my own store for very selfish reasons. Originally, I wanted to be able to get product for myself because I was tired of driving from Target to Target to Target, wasting an entire Saturday for nothing, to have nothing to show for it. So inevitably, I had a lot of people reach out to me and with similar problems, and I was like, all right, well, let me try and make something out of this. Let me try and start an actual business out of this, with the LLC, and try and bring product to players that are like myself, actual players, actual collectors that are also having all these problems. So that was the goal behind YouTube, behind my website, behind everything, was to try and leverage some of my personal collection through grading services, through PSA, to try and get capital to start to get modern product for myself and for other people. That was the whole idea. And the more I made YouTube videos, I actually like making YouTube videos now. It's really fun. So then there's that whole aspect too, and I like being a YouTuber now, which I never thought I would say, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. One of the reasons I think I like it is because of the lockdown. None of us really have the ability to just go out and just interact with fellow people in our hobby anymore. this is kind of one of the only outlets I get to actually talk about Pokemon with anybody anymore, is through YouTube, through the internet. I mean, we can't just go to League on a Saturday afternoon and just talk with friends anymore. It's just not an option, which is sad, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, a couple.
That's kind of where we.
Couple really good things that you touched on there that I'd like to highlight. The first thing, I think that was brilliant of you to print out the eBay listings from that time frame. I wish that I kick myself now, and it's one of those things where you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start taking little snapshots of where the market currently stands now, and then being able to reflect on that in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And I wish I would have done that years ago, and just to kind of to track that upward growth or the downward growth, right? Or the downward spiral, I should say, because that's kind of what we're seeing right now in a lot of different areas, especially when it comes to vintage. But on top of that, so kudos to you there. First of all, that's a really, really smart thing, and something that I would probably encourage a lot of people out there to do as well. If you're consistently browsing eBay or some of these other markets, go ahead and just take a screenshot. Take a screenshot, save it on your desktop, save it in your phone, and then take a look in 6 months, in a year, and see where those types of things are. And I think you will be very surprised at where a lot of this stuff goes, both positively or negatively. But the other thing that I want to touch on here that is a good transition point is talking about the lack of modern products. Now, for you, when you got your distributor license, you filed your LLC, who did you, I'm sure you contacted many, but who did you end up working with as far as distributor?
Southern Hobby. So I got lucky. I contacted everyone back in February, right? I think I applied in February, and I had contacted almost everyone on the list. I went down about 4 or 5 or 6 before I found Southern Hobby, which took me on. And I've had a lot of issues. So it's been a huge learning experience. And it's one thing I've tried to bring everyone along on my channel through the ride, basically, of starting this up from nothing. And a lot of the woes that I've had to face, just to give everyone a perspective of what this is actually like. You can have all the startup capital you want, it doesn't matter, basically. There's a lot of misunderstanding about how the perception of how easy this actually is to do, and it's just not true. So I at one point was very frustrated with my distributor, and I tried right around when we got our Chilling Reigns allocations. I was very disappointed, and I started to go back to the list of distributors and reach back out to everyone, and I heard the same thing from everyone. No place is taking new LLCs that with the sole purpose of reselling Pokemon cards to the internet. They're just not. It's brick and mortar only. So I was not aware of how allocations really worked, and this was my own ignorance and my own fault. When Chilling Reigns, I placed my order for Chilling Reigns, and I thought, okay, I might get half of what I asked for. We'll say I'm going to get half of what I asked for. I got 10% of what I asked for. So I had taken pre-orders, which I was. That's a whole issue where I had to go back and refund at least 100 different orders that I had taken, and I felt horrible doing it. It ate me alive for like a week that I reached out to everybody individually and had to be like, hey guys, listen, I'm really sorry. This is my mistake. I did not understand how this worked. I took a pre-order. I'm not getting anywhere near the allocations that I thought I was going to get. Unfortunately, I have to refund you. And most everybody was pretty understanding about it. It's just a learning experience. So I would, that obviously learning that going forward, you never do pre-orders unless you have hard allocation numbers. Because it's not like it was. As I was told, I had a high-level conversation with the distribution manager for Southern Hobby. He was nice enough to take the time to talk to me, and Battle Styles was the set where you were allowed to order as much as you wanted, and Pokemon would fulfill the order.
Print to demand.
I did not. Print to demand, exactly. Apparently, they do one of those a year.
Yes, they do.
Battle Styles was the set they chose. I did not know that ahead of time, or I could have positioned myself to make a larger order on that, and I would have. And the way distributors work is it goes off your sales history. So you have to build sales history, and they only go back 6 months. And your allocation numbers are based off your prior 6 month sales history. So had I placed a large Battle Styles order, I probably would have gotten more Chilling Reigns. I mean, hindsight's 2020. I did not know that at the time. But not having done that, if you don't catch that set as a new, and there's pitfalls with doing that into itself, because we all know the wave allocations, and most of that's going to come in waves 2 and 3 when the prices, you're barely going to make your money back anyway. But the idea behind it is they were, when they told me 2 to 3 years this is going to take to get to where you want to, I was like, nah, it's not going to take that long. I have the capital, right? I can do this faster. No, you can't. You really can't. Anybody out there looking to start an internet retail for Pokemon, you really have to have a business plan for 2 to 3 years down the line. It is going to take that long with your normal distribution levels through Southern Hobby or Alliance or anyone. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to build solid sales history to where they'll give you anything anything worthwhile that you ask for. And I think that's just a perception that people have, that it's just very easy to do and that anyone can just jump in and do it right now. It's a lot of work. And I'm not, if you have a passion for doing it, go ahead and try. I think last I was told was 6 months, 3 or 4 months ago, I was told that they would look at reopening applications to new businesses 6 months. So maybe in a couple months, if you're out there and you want to try and do something like this, I think that some of the distributors might be open to looking at taking on new customers. I'm not sure. That's what I was told 6 months ago, almost at this point. So it is possible. I don't want to discourage anyone from doing it. I just I want to give my perception of it and try and help people when I can, where I can, learn from some of the mistakes I've made trying to do this.
And that's very important too. And I'm so happy that you brought that out. You brought that to the forefront for your community of understanding some of the pitfalls that happen here, because we see that time and time again. And I've seen it for years now, and especially over this last year, where there's a lot of eBay sellers out there, new eBay sellers, and they'll have pre-orders for all of the new sets, and you'll see huge numbers, right? You'll see you'll see those pre-orders up for weeks and weeks and weeks, and very often what you're seeing there is that lack of understanding. When they say, okay, I'm going to put in for 1,000 boxes, they think that they're going to get 1,000 boxes, when in actuality you're probably going to get maybe, especially if you're new. Especially if you are new with the distributor, you are probably going to get something more along 5%, if that. A lot of the time, what they've done recently are pre-allocations. And so they will go down the list of their buyers, right, from top to bottom, and they will pre-allocate based upon that spend history, like you said, going back 6 months. So you could be a card shop for 10 years, but if your spend for Pokemon isn't up there with the top echelon of other buyers out there, you're going to get allocated even heavier. And that doesn't even speak to the subsequent waves that come out. And something that's important that you discussed in there as well is battle styles. And you do have those print to demand sets once per year. And what a lot of online dealers, what a lot of card shops, what they had happen to them, and one of the big reasons why we saw that dramatic decline in the price of battle styles is that they had the inclination that this was going to be a set like Shining Fates, right? Where I might as well put in big numbers because I'm probably only going to get 10% of that. And in actuality, they got everything. They got everything. They got allocated pretty heavily for that first wave, but when that second wave came out, let's say that same thing. They said, well, you know what? I might as well put in for 1,500 boxes, 2,500 boxes, however many. Well, maybe that first wave you got 500 boxes. That second wave came around and the distributors come knocking at the door. The bone collector comes knocking at the door and says, hey, you remember those other 2,000 boxes? Well, guess what? We need you to take those now And we don't care that Chilling Reign is getting ready to release in a few weeks and that Battle Styles isn't that popular anymore. So now you've got to take all of those. And what you had was a massive influx of people who were just trying to divest themselves of such a large cachet of battle styles. And again, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't see until you've actually worked behind the scenes. Once you've actually gone down this route, you start to see all of the inner workings and how a lot of this trickles down from the top. So for our distributors, a lot of the various ones that we work with, a lot of the information there is not a whole lot of transparency when it comes from information from the top down. And it is actually, from everything that we have been told, it is actually discouraged to actually go in when they go into these meetings with the manufacturers, with Pokemon, Wizards of the Coast, Konami, all these different manufacturers, and they sit down with them. It is actually discouraged for them to ask what the printing is going to look like for this upcoming set. And so it's kind of that unspoken truth in that industry where you just don't talk about it. You just basically wait to see what you're going to get. And again, it's that trickle down effect where there's less transparency from the top and then to the distributor, and then from the distributor down to the third party dealers, the LGS.
Yeah. I even went as far to try and get my sales numbers up as I was trying to get out. I tried to put orders in for non-Pokemon related trading card games. Mm-hmm. And I was taking Flesh and Blood orders. I was taking Final Fantasy. I was buying boxes of those to sell them until I was informed that those sales numbers have nothing to do with Pokemon and it won't affect my allocate. Every game is unique and every game's sales data is self-contained into that game. Mm-hmm. So I'm over here selling Final Fantasy cards, trying to hopefully get higher allocation for Pokemon, and they kindly informed me that is not how it works. I thought I had a loophole, and I don't have a loophole.
Yeah, it's basically the only way is, or what they encourage you to do, and you've probably found this as well, is that they want you to take a lot of the junk stuff. Right, they want you to take a lot of the V battle decks and a lot of the products that nobody really cares about, or products that they've had maybe on back order or that are sitting in inventory, and they say, hey, guess what, guys, Evolving Skies is coming up. We could go ahead and up that allocation for you, but we really would like you to spend $10,000 on this battle deck or something like that.
Right.
And then we'll go ahead and see if we can increase those numbers for you. So it really is a game of cat and mouse in a lot of ways. And I don't mean to speak poorly upon any of the distributors, because for them, I'm sure it's a similar gamut that they're playing from the manufacturer. Sure. And I think a lot of this really has come about because of the supply chain issues, because of COVID, because of the lack of workforce. A lot of the things from a macroeconomic approach that we've seen over this last year, again, that trickle down goes even higher. You know, you can look at it from the higher economic levels, and it really has trickled down all the way. It still baffles me, though. It still baffles me that we're not talking about like big time commodities here. We're talking about cardboard. We're talking about shiny cardboard and plastic.
It's true.
It just baffles me that would be the one thing where we would have such a shortage in supply. But there's people out there at all these different companies that are much smarter than both of us, and certainly more smarter than me.
Well, you remember the press release that was done by Pokemon where they said that they were increasing print production. Mm-hmm. Which the press release came out March-ish, February, March, I remember, somewhere around that time. So as I understand it, and you might have some insight too, you have way more contacts in the distributor level than I do. As I understand the way it works is Konami for Yu-Gi-Oh! Has its own printing process with its own factory. They are a self-isolated, self-contained production facility. Whereas sports cards, baseball, football, Magic, anything Wizards produces, and anything Pokemon Company International produces, they all run through the same print factories. I don't remember the name of the company, but I believe there's 4 factories, and they're all owned, 4 or 5, and they're all owned by 1 or 2 companies. Mm-hmm. And those are the printing companies that all, like Topps and Panini and Pokemon Company International, they source their print runs to these same factories. I believe what I heard was that they're actually opening brand new factories to try and alleviate some of this demand across across sports too, because it's hit everything. But that it takes 1 to 2 years to, I mean, it takes time to build a factory and start up, a process, printing press. So I remember reading that and thinking, okay, well, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, but we are a solid year or two away. It's not going to be overnight. So I know a lot of the people are still, disheartened that they can't get as much as they would like right away. But I would just point everyone back to that press release, and it's still coming, guys. There's going to be more to be printed to demand. It's just it's not instantaneous. They can't just turn on a new factory overnight. And there's more at play than just Pokemon. Pokemon doesn't own its own factories. If not everyone knew that. They share them with other companies to print on the same exact print line, print runs. So,
the interesting thing about that, though, that I found is that we don't really seem to have a shortage of Magic products, right? We never seem to have a shortage of Magic. We never really seem to have a shortage. You said that Konami is specifically for games like Yu-Gi-Oh! So that makes sense. But with all of these various trading card games, sports cards included, there's a lot of them in there that we don't have shortages for, but yet for some reason there is such a shortage for Pokemon, and I wonder why that is. The largest media franchise in the world, one of the strongest IPs in the world, and that is the one where we have the most issues. And it could boil down to just simply the demand, right? There's just that much more demand for Pokemon than there is for Magic. But Magic also has the largest player base, which it doesn't do them a lot of good right now, because tournaments aren't going on, all those different things, so maybe that's why. But there is still a lot of local play that's going on. I'm not sure how it is over in New Jersey, but here in Arizona, pretty much everything's back to normal. Tournament play is happening, everything's back to normal. So that could be it. Could be just a demand issue, and the fact that Magic is mainly tailored to the players, whereas I would say Pokemon is more towards the collectors.
I would absolutely agree. I think that's what it is. I played Magic for a long time too. And I have a big group of Magic friends that aren't buying anything right now because they're buying just enough, like a couple booster boxes. But the same thing that happened to Pokemon did not happen to Magic this last year or two. Magic has an interesting market behind it. It's not like Pokemon where the cards have an intellectual property behind them, such as the media house that is Pokemon, with the anime, the movies, the video games. It has a much larger reach, a broader reach, where people, they just want to collect the cards. Magic really is a player-based oriented game. You buy what you want to play in your tournaments. It has a healthy market behind it because it has a very established vintage play structure where you can play cards from older sets in tournaments with big cash prizes. But aside from actually needing cards for decks, there are people that do complete binder sets for Magic. It is not as common as it is for Pokemon. So I think a lot of the people weren't buying as much this last couple, year and a half now, because they can't play them. There were no tournaments up until maybe very recently. So a lot of the products sat on the shelves because you can't flip it, you can't sell it to anyone, so it would just sit there. I don't think Wizards probably changed their print request from the factory. They probably requested the same amount. It's just they didn't see a demand for any more. Plus, Magic has a very healthy online player base too. Magic the Gathering Online is way more popular than Pokemon Online is. So a lot of my friends played Magic Online over the last year or two. So, but you don't need the cards for. So I think that might have something to do with it. Because I was wondering the same thing every time I'd go into Walmart. There's plenty of Magic, and I actually stopped and thought about it for a second. I was like, I might as well just start playing Magic again, because at least I can buy the cards. This is silly. Yeah.
Well, and you would think, when I look at it and I look at these huge wheelhouses of companies, and I look at Pokemon, it really baffles me that Pokemon as an entity hasn't established their own printing facilities specifically for it. I can understand back in the day when they were under the contract with Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast was printing multiple different TCGs. But now, and especially at this point, you think that they would have branched out and had their own manufacturing facilities, their own printing facilities to meet that demand, because I just don't see it slowing down, right? We go through these little bouts of ebbs and flows, but about every 5 years, there's just a massive spike in the popularity of Pokemon that typically corresponds to either a new game or another milestone, 20th anniversary, 25th anniversary, 30th. So it is kind of baffling that they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I've thought the same thing. I don't know why. I really don't have an answer for that one. I've definitely wondered that as well. When I heard about how they still print their cards, I thought the same thing. I was like, my God, 15 years ago they were still doing the same thing. They were still printing them the same way. They haven't evolved. They haven't changed. I don't know why I mean, we're talking about a company that ended their contract with Wizards because they figured out that they can do this all on their own and can do it all in-house, but yet haven't pulled the printing in-house. I don't understand. There must be something there that we don't know, some sort of contractual obligations, or I don't know why they haven't done it, but it is definitely interesting. I would personally, and I'm sure we all would love for them to do it. To be able to have complete control over it. I don't know on that one.
Yeah, it's just it's so interesting, and that's one of the frustrating things of being a distributor. You know this just as well as I do. It's one of the frustrating things where we just don't have that transparency. We don't know, and it's just never communicated from the top down. It's just this bottleneck that exists. And so when our customers reach out to us and they say, "Hey guys, are you going to have enough for us? Are you going to have?" And you're just like, you really don't know until the last minute, until finally you've basically squeezed it out of your distributor and they've squeezed it out of the manufacturer, and then you just can kind of divulge that information as it comes down to you.
You know, one thing I heard listening to one of Randolph's videos over in the UK, they do it different in the UK than they do it here for distribution. They're a lot more transparent with
they only have
their
one.
allocate. They only have one, right? And he was talking about how it changed for the last couple sets with them versus how they were doing it previously, where it was percentage based, and they did it percentage based of allocation. You knew ahead of time, I ordered this much, my previous allocation, I'm going to get 80% of what I ordered. Like, they told them way ahead of time what they were going to get, and it was favored towards the stores with sales history, which I totally get, and I'm all for that. Like, I have no illusions that I am just starting in this, and I do think it's fair that somebody like Mason, and Cardinal, who's been around forever, that they get. I mean, they're the ones who poured their sweat and blood over the last 15 or so years into this. My big problem was the just like we just said, was the transparency. I just wish somebody had a frank conversation with me when I signed up about what to expect, exactly how it worked, and realistic expectations, which I think that's something distributors could do a little bit better at. I mean, I could go into personal, and I won't, but my personal sales rep, the reason I had to jump to the managers, because just the lack of communication. Like, I would ask about, okay, well, when's this product coming out, and how does this work? And it would be weeks before I would get answers from emails. And you can't run a business like that. You just can't. You have to have communication.
Well, and a lot of that boils down to these sales agents. You think about it from the company standpoint. A lot of these smaller accounts, smaller, right? It's all relative.
Sure. It is.
Smaller accounts, you got to think that the sales rep that's getting positioned to that account, I would imagine, having been in sales before, that he is probably a part of a team, right, that probably manages a ton of really small accounts. the higher up the echelon that you go, the more you get that sort of white glove service, right? You get the top
Personal.
sales reps, you get that personal communication. We've been pretty lucky with our distributors in communication. We pretty much have them on speed dial, but that is also because of the long history that Rocky has had. Even though I've been in this hobby for a while, and even though I actually used to work with GTS back in the day, which was totally different. It was totally different back in the day. The way that I see it now compared to the way it was back in like 2016, 2017, even 2018, it's just night and day difference. But there's no way if I would have jumped back into it now and tried to like renew my reseller license with GTS or Southern Hobby or any of these, I would have started right from the bottom because there's such a long pause in there of spend history, and that's why I teamed up with Rocky, was because he had that long history and we could really collaborate well together. But even when that's the case, you brought up Mason. I've spoken with Mason on several occasions, and even for him, he's pretty disappointed with the allocations that he's getting, and I just hear that really across the board. I hear it across the board from a lot of people who have been in here, and the consensus among most of them is we're just planning on writing this out, and we're hoping that these distributors, the people that have been loyal to them for all these years, that it'll pay dividends to us once things do go back to a sense of normalcy. And we will be able to be taken care of with that white glove service because we were loyal and we stuck with them all this time. We never jumped ship. And that's for us. For us at PokeRealm, our eventual goal is to bypass that completely, is to really get it to the point to where we have maxed out everything with all various distributors so that we then can apply direct to manufacturer. And we're already direct with a few different ones, mainly accessory companies. But to really get to that level, you really have to be spending, in the, over $1 million a year, which with the business model, I think that's very much feasible because we have a lot of big spenders that are already a part of the program. But to really get to that level, I think that's the only time that you can really get the best information because it's coming from the source. And
right.
Like the distributor said, even when it's coming from the source, it's not always fastidious, right? They're not always bringing it to your forefront. But that's as good as it's going to get. So that's really been our goal. But I would say, to your point, anybody out there that is looking to perhaps become an LLC or a sole prop and get their reseller's permit and apply with a distributor sometime in the near future, you just need to be cognizant of a lot of the risks that are involved, and also having the expectations of where you're going to be starting. Right, you're going to be starting from the ground floor, and it's going to take a significant amount of time, especially starting in this day and age, to really build up to that point where you're getting what you really want. Right, and go ahead.
No, I got something. Something I'm gonna ask about, but
the thing that I would add to that as well is understanding the risks where. If you do want to push those numbers up, there will be that pressure to buy a lot of products that you weren't anticipating to be able to get those numbers, to take on products that you weren't expecting. And this is just from the online dealer standpoint. When you start getting, if you want to open up an LGS, you guys can add on about twofold the amount of risks that you're going to be taking on, especially starting now. We work with a few right now just in the local area, and I talked about it in my recent video. I feel for the men and women out there that are starting LGSs right now, because it is such an uphill struggle. Most of them aren't even working with a distributor, or if they are, the amount of products that they're getting are almost negligible. and they're just trying to source from wherever they can. A lot of it is just buying off of the secondary market and just trying to make, you know, maybe 5% margin on their products, and it's tough. It's really, really tough.
I feel for those people because growing up, I've played and collected a lot of games since, you know, all through high school, and I've seen and made friends with a lot of local store owners over the years. I've spent a lot of my childhood and a lot of nights in local gaming stores. We had a weekly D&D game every Saturday night that we ran. I've played Magic, I've played HeroClix, I've played Warhammer 40K. I've played a lot of games that require physical space, and I've seen a lot of these stores go under, and I've been there late at night with the owners, watching them and watching the pain on their face of just, you know, they can't make rent this month, and it's so hard, guys, like to open a local gaming store. I mean, you have so much overhead. Your percentage and your profit margins are so small, and these people have families. These people are trying. I mean, this is the amount of passion that these people pour into their stores is I mean, you're not going to find this in something like a nail salon or like it's hard to find, you know, a more passionate group of people that just want to have it succeed because they and just to watch the, you know, the sadness on their face sometimes late at night when you're there, it's a shame. It really is. I think, you know, I've never, it's been any comic store, any local gaming store from when I was a child till now, everybody has always understood that if you want to open that is an uphill battle for almost ever. Even the best one in our area, the most successful one that I've ever seen, is now closed. They went out of business. They did not, and this was way before COVID. I don't know what the shift was, because I stopped playing Magic and I stopped going there. But they went from they got Better Business Bureau, 5-time, you know, best store in South Jersey, like 5, 6, 7 years in a row. And then they went under. It was a husband and wife that ran the store together. And I've heard of this so many times across the country, of this local gaming stores just not making it. And everybody says, you know, have a good business model. You know, you got to do other things too. I've seen it. I've seen them try everything. The margins are just so small. They just are. Personally, if I were to ever open one, my idea. So my other hobby that I do is I compete in strongman. I used to play football. I used to wrestle. So it's just a sport that I do that lets me continue to lift weights outside of college, basically, and use that for something other than just wasting my time in the gym. There's this whole sport behind it. But I've thought of even, okay, well, actually opening the Poke Gym and having like a card shop attached to an actual gym, where you could have membership for the gym half of it that would keep, you know, the lights on, but then also run a local card shop on the other side of it too, and just call it the Poke Gym. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I want to highlight that too, because I recommended the very thing in this last video, talking about, you know, if you are going to be opening in a card store in 2021, 2022, anytime soon, my recommendation was try to create an adjunct business alongside that. You know, whether that's a coffee shop that's attached to your card shop, whether that, you know, whatever it may be, a barber shop, whatever can bring more foot traffic in the door, whatever can generate revenue that can help to keep that card shop afloat, and then divest some of the revenue, some of the profits right back into your card shop. And like you said, there's other business models out there where you can start to build that right faster. And it's also nice because if you're moving some of that revenue over to the capital that you can then spend on more products, guess what? That reflects really well for your distributors. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of eBay sellers out there that their main business is completely estranged from Pokemon. These could be car repair stores, these could be hair salons, these could be, anything like that. And what they've done is they've used that business, that successful business, and they've divested some of that capital to then create this online Pokemon business. And that's how they're able to get a fairly decent amount of Pokemon products to sell on eBay or some of these other online sources, is because of what they generated off of their other business. So they've been able to jump into this market because of that. And I totally agree with you. I think that would probably be, if I were to jump into that, if I were to start a brick and mortar card store, I would have some kind of adjunct business with that to really help it get started, right? To provide it as a little bit of a catalyst.
Yeah, it's tricky too. Unless you're folks like yourself. No, I apologize. Do you still work a 9 to 5 while doing?
Yeah.
You do. So you absolutely know. I mean, it's a whole leap of faith unto itself to give up your steady 9 to 5 income too, to move into something like this too. I mean, I honestly did consider doing a brick and mortar over this last year to get higher allocation numbers, but the risk was the risk versus uncertainty was just too high. I couldn't nail down what the allocation percentage increase for my distributor would be as being a brick and mortar. Like, you have to be brick and mortar for certain card games like Magic. You can't order Magic unless you have a brick and mortar. There's certain other ones that are like that too. So I did consider it, but my main reason for not doing it is it's just not feasible personally to give up my 9 to 5. But the more I thought about it, because I mean, if you have a brick and mortar, you have to staff the place. I mean, you have to have somebody there while you're open. But if you can allocate a small section of that as just an office, I mean, I work from home. I can do my personal job. I could just do it in the card shop 9 to 5, and ring up sales whenever I had a customer or whatever. I mean, I wouldn't be able to pay as much attention to the customers, but it could be feasible for a couple of years to do that. So if anybody out there, is thinking about that, and you work from home, you can use your business space as office space too for whatever job that you're doing. So I did think you don't necessarily have to give up your 9 to 5. It's just, you have to think of these things. It's not the easiest road to just jump into. You got to take all this stuff into consideration.
No, it's all really good points, all things that anybody out there, and I'm sure many people have considered it when they've seen the meteoric rise of Pokemon and TCGs over this last year. These are all things to consider, no matter what space you're going into or considering, LGS, brick and mortar, or even online. These are all things that you have to take into consideration. So, Joe, final ballpark estimate. When do you think we're going to reach the golden age once again for modern Pokemon products?
By golden age, you mean when we're going to be able to...
Product on Walmart shelves, product on Target shelves, card shops, at MSRP, those type of things.
I'm going to say early 2023. I'm going to say it's going to take them all next year to get the factory that they're planning on building up and running. And if everything goes, I would say early 2023, unless we hear otherwise. Or if something does not go according to plan, it might get pushed back. But I think that's a safe Q1, quarter 1, 2023, maybe quarter 2. I mean, but it really, in my opinion, depends on how fast they can get that other print factory up and running. And then get the product pushed through it and into more distributors' hands and then onto more shelves quicker and quicker and quicker. I definitely think that the demand will still be there then. I don't think the demand for Pokemon is going to go back to 2017 era anytime soon. I think we're going to run right into the 30th anniversary. We might have a lull for a year, a dip for like maybe 2024, 2025 for a year or two there, but right around 30th anniversary, I think it's just going to pick right back up again.
And that's typically what we see. I mean, since since 2016, since I got on it, you can just see that, and you can see like
Yeah.
previous years, you can see those graphs, and you can see the data, and it just corresponds almost perfectly with those various milestones of it picking back up, or a new generation coming out with
Yeah.
new Sword and Shield coming out. Then you have the release of the new games, or you get another kind of game changer, no pun intended, like Pokemon Go, something like that,
Sure.
that just brings a massive influx of people in, and they always funnel right down to the TCG. It doesn't matter what branch of Pokemon that they're coming in from. It seems like everybody always funnels down to the TCG eventually.
It's true. I mean, we could do a whole hour on my actual thoughts of what they're pumping out as far as current Pokemon generations themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the actual design of the creatures and design of Pokemon. I personally think that they're it's like making a copy of a copy. Eventually, you just run out of DNA. You run out of DNA. I don't. I remember when when the Johto region was unveiled, and just the excitement that was like, oh my God, there's new Pokemon. Like everyone was the Neo generation. Everyone was just so hyped for it. So hyped for it.
Best generation.
And
Best generation, in my
best
opinion,
generation
from everything.
Yep.
Games, the designs, the TCG. Yeah.
It's hard to beat Red and Blue. It is. I mean, it's the originals, but I got to give it up to my Johto is definitely my favorite. It was Red and Blue was out and about before a lot of people realized what was even going on.
Right.
And people were in the game, and then they got the news like there's new Pokemon, Peekaboo, and like all those spoilers about. Like,
yeah.
It was fantastic time to be in the hobby. Like everyone was talking about it, and I don't see that anymore. They make so many Pokemon that they just have no personality to them anymore. They just they don't have any hype behind them. They don't have any market push behind them. I remember being in chemistry class. This is funny, in high school, and writing and taking a piece of paper and seeing if I could write out all 252 Pokemon, I believe at the time, the two generations from memory, just seeing if I could write them all out in their Pokédex. And I could do it, but I was at the expense probably of some memory that should have been allocated to chemistry at the time. But
should have been writing out the periodic table. You're writing out the table of Pokemon.
I was. But good Lord, if I could sit there and even tell you how many Pokemon are out there now in the Pokédex. What is it? What are we up to? Like 800 and some? Like,
yeah, I think so.
It loses something after an amount of time like that. Like everyone, there are outliers. There's some great new character designs out there, and there's some fan favorites that have come out in the recent years. But I wish they'd almost pull it back. I wish they'd just go back to the basics a lot more. I don't know how to do that from a marketing perspective successfully. But I don't want to say reboot. I don't want to say completely reboot, but just simplify it, dumb it down. We need to go back a little bit. Take a step back, take a step forward, I think.
In some ways, they've done it with the anime, where I think they reached a point where they said to themselves, and I think it started in the Sun and Moon era, where they said, you know what, the anime is just basically on repeat. Every new generation that comes out, it's just the same thing. Ash is going around, he's collecting his badges, he's going to the Pokemon League in that particular region, and it's just the same thing, same plot lines over and over and over. So then in Sun and Moon, it's like, okay, well, you're going to go to the Pokemon school, which I thought was really dumb, but that's just Pokemon's opinion. And then you come to, Journeys now, and it's kind of a reboot in the sense that they're visiting all of these previous regions. And so I think if they're exploring that with the anime, then perhaps they could explore that with the TCG. They could explore that with the games.
I wish they would. This brings us right into Celebrations, which I think is a fantastic set. I love Celebrations. My favorite card that's been released so far from Celebrations is Light Toxicity.
Yeah.
Of all the things, that's such a cool idea. Even they're using the same, not just the mechanic, but the card looks like it's right out of Neo Destiny.
Yes.
Like, it's just such a neat throwback to see that. My only complaint with Celebrations is that it wasn't a bigger set. I wish they had done like made this one a 200 card set. Just really give more to it, or do a couple, like do a whole block like this. Do like 1, 2, 3, like a 3 set block. But Yeah, there's so many cool things in Celebrations. I love the mix of the old and the new. The leaked image of the shiny gold card Mew,
Yes.
like that thing hits. I don't even
Yeah.
really like gold cards, and I like that card. Like that thing hits hard. I was like, I want that card.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's a fantastic idea, and I hope they realize how popular this is really going to be. I mean, I got my allocation numbers, and ironically, and you've said this too. Either you've said it here, and I think you've said it before too. My celebration allocation numbers were better than my Evolving Skies, my Chilling Reigns. They were better than everything that I've gotten
Hmm.
so far. I put up a video of like, hey guys, it's up on my website, and I sold out in like 5 minutes,
Oh yeah.
literally, which had never has not happened up till this point this year for me.
Hmm.
That is how popular I think this is going to be. Now I do agree, and I've heard a lot of people say this too, that it will have legs. It's going to be printed for a while too, I think.
Hmm.
Kind of like how Evolutions was. I think if people get too frustrated right out of the gate, that they can't get it, I wouldn't fall for the scalper prices. I had so many people message me, and I don't have that big of a following, but I had a lot of people message me thanking me for not. I had it all at MSRP, and
Hmm.
so many people messaged me saying, oh my God, thank you. I've had this, prior to seeing it on your site, this was $100 more than any other site.
Hmm.
And I would just encourage people to just not do that. Just wait a little bit. I know it's hard. It's a cool set. Um, I'm not even. I think I'm keeping 2 ETBs for myself out of everything I've gotten. I wish I want to open it. I wish I got more for myself. But so I get it. I feel for everyone. It's a cool set. I would want to open it too. But just don't pay triple, quadruple MSRP, guys. There's plenty of places. I'm sure NAB's going to have, reach out to. There's plenty of places like NAB that's going to have it available for people, the collectors and the players out there that want to get it.
Hmm.
I do not support these scalping sites at all. I think it's horrible.
Yeah, yeah. I think really what it all boils down to is, even though the numbers are better, it's understanding that, that first wave, you may not get everything that you want. You may not get the full gamut of all the products in there, especially the more high-end products, the ultra premium collection box, the figure collection box, things like that. But there will be products. There will be products for everyone, and it's just holding fast. It's just staying
Yeah.
the course and understanding that there will be more of these to come out. Because to my understanding, are we going to have another set after?
Yes.
It
There
should
will
be in
be
November, right?
there'll be a November set. Yes.
Yeah, and it should be a mainline set.
It'll be a mainline set. Yep, it'll be a mainline. I think the Japan applied for the trademark. So the trademarks, I believe, are. This is gonna PTCG Radio reveal them. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but something Battlefield or something Field. It's another dual mainline set, and it
Hmm.
it will be, I believe, our November set. Now, interestingly, did you hear this as well? The EV full arts, the alternate arts
Hmm.
for the VMAXs, are not going to be in our Evolving Skies set.
I did hear that.
I wonder where they're going to put them.
I
Promos, maybe?
Yeah, I really have no idea. I don't know if maybe they'll provide those as maybe exclusive promos. My first inclination is to believe that maybe they'll put them in the Pokemon Center ETBs, that maybe they'll make them exclusive promos, which I got to give a shout out to my boy Ditto Faction over on Instagram. I was knee deep in work yesterday, and he sent me a message on a DM and said, "Hey, Pokemon Center ETBs for Evolving Skies are up." I jumped in there and snagged.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Snagged for him.
Oh,
So big shout out to Ditto Faction if
nice.
you're watching this, man. But yeah, I mean, this was probably at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time yesterday,
Oh,
and I checked last night at 6 p.m. Gone. They were gone.
dang, I missed them.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool what they're doing for the misprinted ones for Chilling Reigns. They're releasing how they're giving you the extra packs and the 3 birds.
Mm-hmm.
They're throwing them to us in a blister. It's actually a sealed 2 packs and the 3 birds and a nice little blister that they're
Mhm.
mailing to us. So I've heard a lot of people say keep those sealed because it's a very unique thing that they've never done before. It's
Oh yeah.
it's a little thank you gift. So I would recommend everybody, if you're getting those error packs from Pokemon Center, those free gift packs, I wouldn't open those. I'd keep those sealed.
Oh, for sure.
Long term, put those in a closet.
Definitely.
I didn't know about the Eevee Heroes though. That's
or not Eevee Heroes. I'm sorry.
Right,
I said
Evolving
Eevee,
Skies.
Evolving Skies. Yes. So I felt pretty lucky about that because I never check Pokemon Center. Like
No,
one,
I don't.
I don't have the time. I never expect to see anything on there. So when he sent that over to me and I saw that they were actually on there, I was like, oh yeah, I'll
That's
snag.
cool.
It was limited to 4.
Okay.
But I was able to snag 4 on there. So
Nice.
shout out to anybody else out there that was able to get in early and snag some of those. But that's what I'm thinking, that maybe we could see them in there. But Evolving Skies is a mishmash of a lot of different Japanese sets, right? So I think to try to keep the set relatively small, because I think Pokemon is starting to learn that when you get massive sets, it's just people are like, what's the point, right? People who are trying to collect complete master sets, they're just like, what's the point? Especially with a set like Chilling Reign, which I thought was very good as an overall set, but the pull rates are just
They're atrocious.
Abysmal. And the only luck that I was ever having with Chilling Reign was the 3-pack blisters and the individual sleeve blisters. Booster boxes, I was just striking out.
You
left and
actually
right.
see different ratios with those? I've heard that from other people.
I did personally. I can't speak as a whole,
Interesting.
as the aggregate, but I know that for myself, that's where I was finding the most luck, was the individual sleeve blisters and the 3-pack blisters. Even the ETBs were not that great, and the booster boxes were by far the worst.
It's interesting. Harking back to the old days of opening booster boxes. I made on Burbank Gym on Facebook. About 2 months ago, I made a 20-point detailed post about what I think the problems with Modern is. All from a vintage player, high level tournament organizer, collector perspective, I laid it out. Here's my issues with Modern. I had I'd say 90% of the people agree with me about with one point or the other of what I made. That people largely felt a lot of the same way that I did. And one of the points I made was set size. Absolutely, set size is getting ridiculously big. It is an unobtainable from a collector's perspective. I mean, I remember back in the day, I would buy a booster case of every set. I mean, we're talking around like early Nintendo era, not with Wizards, because I was still a kid. I was lucky if I got a booster box for Christmas. But right when I could start to afford my own stuff, I would buy a case. $450-ish would get you a case. And that would get me way more than I needed of every set, plus stuff to trade with my friends for collection, like enough trade bait, as we called it, to get other cards that you wanted in the hobby. My God, you could open a whole case of Chilling Reigns and not even get anywhere near the secret rares. Yeah.
Danny Phantom actually did a whole video on it and ran through the analytics, and I can't I think they opened 72 booster boxes of Chilling Reign, and we're still like 13 cards short of completing
insane.
the master set. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Which that to me, I mean, that's just totally unobtainable for the average.
It is
for basically anybody. Like, I mean, 72 boxes is what is that? Boy, that's 60, 13 booster
14
cases. Like, nobody out there is going to be able to do that unless you're, somebody like him or us or a store, right? And who's going to hold that much product, right? Who's going to hold it and just open that? So
it's the same thing in Japan too, because I subscribe to SM Pratt's Patreon, and he cracked a whole case of Eevee Heroes just for fun, and got like 3 alternate arts. Got like nowhere near what I mean. He was chasing cards, and I mean, it's only one case as opposed to, I mean, it's not 14 cases, but I mean, that is not traditional with Japanese booster boxes at all. The pull rates for Japanese boxes used to be pretty good, like 2 or 3 chase secret rares per box, not one. So, and their sets are smaller. Their sets are smaller than ours. There is a little bit difference with how we slot the secret rares and the ultra rares in the packs versus how Japan does it. But to be quite honest, I remember it used to be simple. You could open a box of Neo Destiny or a box of Skyridge or a box of Team Rocket Returns, and you would know your gold stars, your crystals, your shinings. You would know the pull rates,
Hmm.
and you would know you get on average one per box. Crystals was like two or three depending on the set, but it was pretty consistent, and there was not enough secret rares for it to be unobtainable, to complete a set. Now with it's only being one a box, maybe two,
Hmm.
and there's 20 of them in a set. I mean, you just can't do it. You just
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the prices don't really reflect that
No.
that shortage, right, or that scarcity. You don't really see that reflected. Whereas, back in the day, you could go and you could check your Beckett, well, mainly Beckett price guides, and they would be reflected. The gold stars, all these different cards would be reflected in that.
So I realized this, and I can say that over the last 2 weeks, I've been very bullish on purchasing alternate arts, with the idea of holding them for the next 10 years or so.
Hmm.
Um, I do think, as far as I think people want them, and I don't think people realize how hard they are to get. And I think that just like gold stars, alternate arts are going to stand the test of time.
Hmm.
I think some of those are just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful cards, and I think future generations of Pokemon collectors are going to think the same exact thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think of the
Gold.
Sword and Shield era. If I were to make a wager, if you were to ask me which card mechanic or which style of card do you think is going to be the most valuable, unless they bring it back in future sets, Amazing Rares will be the cards to have from the Sword and Shield era.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, I
they
agree.
only had, what, 12, right? Or 9. Excuse me, 9.
Nine.
They only
Yep.
had 9, which is perfect for a 9-pocket binder, right? But
Yep, exactly.
those I thought were really cool. We were talking about getting back to the basics. I felt like those cards kind of got back to the basics of their simplicity, but also their aesthetic value. And we haven't seen them since the last release in Vivid Voltage. Or was it Shining Fates?
It was Vivid
No,
Voltage.
Vivid Voltage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I really think that those will probably be the cards that will. I think it will catch a lot of people by surprise. But that's just my
I
opinion.
agree. I know a lot of people went in on them, and I know a lot of people said this the opposite of that. Oh, they're not going to be worth anything. I hedged my bets. I mean, they were not expensive, and I
Mhm.
bought what I wanted to do, and I have the binder. I wanted to do a binder page of each one, so 9 of each one, 9 times 9. I just something about that math just
Yeah.
looked cool to me. So so that's what I did. I did a binder page of each one of the Amazing Rares. The other recent modern product that I really like is the Shining cards that they did. So
Mhm.
the Shining Lugia and
Yes.
I like that they say Shining in the word.
Mhm.
I think that's really cool. So I did a binder page of each one of those just for fun. Um, but yeah, I agree. The Amazing Rares, I think 10 years from now, people are really going to like those. I really do.
Mhm.
So,
I'm interested to get your opinion on what you think the overall market for singles will be for modern cards.
Raw.
Let's raw and graded. Let's start with raw. We'll get into graded, and that'll be a good transition to talk about of PSA and all the grading
Sure.
companies.
Do you mean when you say? Do you mean within a year? Like how far down the line?
Let's say 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years. I think that. So if you're talking what current modern values will be raw 5 to 10 years from now, I will say that there there will be certain cards. So I think your average set card is not going to hold its value. I think that a lot of the set cards are just have no identity to them. I think that a lot of what people are choosing to grade now will still be desirable for one reason or another 10 or 12 years from now. Look, if you have a Charizard, there's always going to be people that like Charizard. It's not going to be base set Charizard. It's not Shining or Crystal Charizard, but there will be people that want a lot of the newer Shining Charizards, the Charizard V. I don't think that it's ever going to go to the moon, but I think that they're going to hold their value relatively. I think that there's going to be new kids that come in and see a giant black Shining Charizard. It's all sparkly on a card, and they're going to think it's pretty cool. Um, a lot of promos I think are gonna hold their value. If there's an exclusive promo like Special Delivery Pikachu is a great example. I think that card has really good fundamentals. So if you can if you can get on a couple of those, I think those are great pickups for Modern. Um, I think that like we were just talking about, I think some of the chase cards. So I really do believe in the alternate arts that we're starting to see. I think those are going to be, especially if they start to do more popular Pokemon. I mean, this Galarian Slowking, okay. The Rapidash looks cool because it looks like My Little Pony. The birds, I really like the Galarian birds personally. I think they look really cool. But I mean, if you start to see like alternate art Mew, alternate art Charizard, alternate art Blastoise, like if they come out with those are going to hold. I think those are really going to hold their value, especially considering once I think people wake up to realize how rare this stuff is, and once it's done being printed, that it's going to be it's done being printed, and then what's out there is out there, and it's not many. Unlike a lot of the set cards that are just printed into the ground, these alternate arts are not printed as heavily, and the art is, I think the art holds up. It's not that standard, what is it, not 4H, I always want to call it 4H, the computer generated CGI art that's been on all the V's, 4-ban, I think 4-ban. It's not that run-of-the-mill art that doesn't really catch anyone's eyes. They really pop. So I think that's areas that people could invest in Modern. I think Modern Sealed is always a solid penny stock, is always a solid S&P 500. I don't think, like, I've seen a lot of your videos talking about battle styles, and I absolutely 100% agree. There's people out there right now that you can get battle styles really cheap, guys, and even if it only goes, let's say 5 years from now, it's going to go to 300 a box, which is, it's not unreasonable. I mean, all you have to do is buy it and put it in a closet. It's not that difficult. You can actually get sealed boxes right now. I mean, you look at every XY set that's out there right now, no matter the set, they're all up. They're all up
Even
over time.
Steam Siege.
Even Steam Siege, exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous. Over time, I had a whole discussion with Jake about this, for Pokenomics. No, I mean, the inherent principle of opening a box, there is value in just the entertainment factor now on YouTube alone of just opening product. And when there's a lot of it. There's a lot more modern booster boxes being held and kept sealed, but at some point people are going to want them and have to track them down. And if you have a closet full of them and you can say, hey, I'll give you these booster boxes, people are always going to want booster boxes to open. Unlike wax error packs or wax error of anything with baseball, Pokemon has a game behind it too. There's always going to be people that want to open Pokemon cards for the game. You know, there's tons of comic books that were printed, but you don't have to open comic books as a collectible. It is what it is. You have a graded comic book or just a comic book, and other than the condition degrading over time, the comic book is the comic book. Once you crack a sealed box, you've destroyed. It's like Schrodinger's cat. You destroyed the box. Like, it's no longer sealed. And so I definitely think that Modern Sealed is a relatively safe bet if you can get it at MSRP. Now, if you're buying booster boxes 200 a box, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that unless you have a lot of money. I mean, there's a lot of other areas you could throw your investment into. And then the whole other side is Japanese promos. I really believe, like, if you really want to dig into it, there's the stamp promos that are coming out right now are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, what is it, the Naga Pikachu, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but the little hand-drawn Pikachu art card that just came out. I mean, I picked up 30 of those just to sit on. I mean, right now they're only like $25 right from Japan, and I have no doubts that those are going to go up over time. It's such a unique thing, but this gets into a whole other area that, you know, you have to look at fundamentals, and we could do hour-long conversations on, and there's tons of videos. If you don't know what we're talking about, the fundamentals of collecting, older rare mints are better. You have to look at things like rarity and uniqueness, and when you're looking at a lot of the modern English stuff, there's just nothing unique about it. So yes, I believe to sum that up, yes, I believe there's good areas of modern that will hold their value within 10 or 15 years, but I don't think it's everything. It's not WotC, guys. You're not everyone's going to want a complete set of Vivid Voltage. They're just not.
Hmm.
It's not like Jungle, it's not like Fossil. It's not going to be like that. You're going to have to pick and choose, pick your battles.
Hmm. And I sometimes wonder if the name or the tenet of rare should be transposed with exclusive. I think exclusive is probably a better word to use than actual rare, because we have cards that are rare, right? Especially from a
Right.
population standpoint. We have cards that are rare, but that doesn't necessarily make them desirable. Typically, when we
Yes.
have exclusive type of cards, they are both rare and they're desirable. And so I think that looking more
That's a good
at
point.
exclusivity is probably a good hallmark. And typically, the most exclusive items that you're going to find are Japanese exclusive. These are going to be products that are not, or cards rather, that are not released outside of Japan. And so the only
Yep.
way to get those are from Japan. And you know as well as myself, it's not always easy to get products from Japan. Especially sealed products, very difficult. You're going to have to go secondary market or have somebody over there that you trust, that you buy from. But I agree with you wholeheartedly on all those points. And looking at something like sealed, I would say that for me, I'm more bullish on modern sealed products than I am on regular set cards. I agree with you that the alternate arts are probably an outlier to that, but there's a saying in the financial in the financial world that everyone is a long-term investor until they experience a short-term crisis.
I've heard you say that.
And I mean, it doesn't matter, man. I mean, I've been involved in so many different markets, real estate, the financial markets, collectibles, and it's just, it's like right now, right? Like in real estate, like there's so many people that I know that, their homes, for instance, their homes have maybe appreciated 30-40% over this last year. And so many people have gone out and sold their homes, and that's fine. Maybe you use that capital to invest elsewhere. But I see that as that's when you want to continue to hold, right? There's different opportunities there of being able, you can continue to hold your home, you can rent it out, continue to let it appreciate, let somebody else pay off your mortgage. So for me, I kind of always have that long-term mindset. There's still things that I do, flipping and things like that, business ventures. A business venture, like for you and I, we can't hold this stuff long term because we've got to move it, right? We got to create new capital. We have to create new cash flow to be able to buy more product. Like we can't be a long term investor. Maybe we set some products aside for ourselves if there's enough allotment.
Yeah.
But you can't be a long term investor in that. So you've got your short term plans that you initiate, but then over the course of many years, you have to understand like what is your long-term goal, what is the end goal, and what strategies are you employing to get to that end goal. And that's something that I see now with battle styles. It's a great opportunity, in my opinion, of what happened with that print to demand paradigm that we saw, because now that has presented an opportunity to so many people out there to purchase these products at prices that were pre-2020, and now you can, if you've got the means to do so, you can sit on these. And I've always, prior to getting into Pokemon, for me a good return was something on average of 8%. Hey, if it was on average to the S&P 500, that was great. And that's the thing, like these products are just going to get rare. And that's where you talked about speaking with Jake. This is one of those points that I think I disagree with him on. Is I think he's overestimating the amount of people that are actually going to keep these products sealed, that are actually going to hold these for the long term.
I heard you say that on the I heard you say that on the last roundtable you did, and I actually agree with you on that too. I agree with you as well. Yep.
Just because I think there's so many extraneous factors that maybe aren't being taken into consideration, where like YouTube, for instance, I guarantee you in 3 years, there's going to be a ton of YouTubers that are like, where can I get battle styles? Where can I crack open some battle styles? This set's 3 years old. I mean, we do it now, right? I mean, those are the videos that are going to get clicks, is, opening up Burning Shadows, right? 3-year-old, 4-year-old set, they get the clicks, and that's because it's still somewhat available. You can still get it, and it's not going to put you back like, opening up a Fossil booster box or something like that, because there's very few of the YouTubers that are actually going to be able to do that, right? Leonhardt Unlisted Leaf, like, it's just not going, the math's not going to average out there. And so something like Battle Styles, they're going to be looking for people, and when they give them the right price, guess what? People are going to, oh, sure, heck yeah. You give me $400 for a Battle Styles booster box? Sure, here, take a couple cases and crack. Those will just start to be cracked open again and again and again. And also for people that see a downward swing in the market again, guess what? Money gets a little tight. You need to divest yourself of some product. There's those Battle Styles booster boxes.
It's easy. They're easy to move. Yep.
They're easy to move.
They're easy to store. They're easy to move. They're easy to understand, and I think that's a big ask. So I do agree with Jake in one thing, in that there's always a better thing to invest your money in. There's always a potential, especially in collectible card games or collectible hobbies in general. Sure, is Battle Styles going to see you the most return on investment? Probably not. But it's also one of the easiest things to understand for your average collector too. You don't have to do that deep dive of knowledge into using services like Buy and grading cards and learning where to acquire rare trophy cards, and the risk factor of dumping $10,000 into a single card and then needing to move that one card instantly is potentially more difficult than buying 100 boxes of Battle Styles and, I need to hit the Battle Styles ATM this week and trying to offload 5 or 10 boxes of Battle Styles. Seems a lot more manageable and feasible to your average person, I think, than wrapping up a lot of their liquidity in something big like and I think that sometimes a lot of the people that are really deep into the investing just kind of forget that a lot of the boom that happened, there's in my opinion, there's two areas of boom that happened with Pokemon in the last year. You have your average collector, people that are opening live streams and Twitch streams, and I see it all. I'm on Burbank and lots of Facebook groups with 50,000, 100,000 members, and I'm actively on these groups looking at what people are selling, claim sales, auction sales, flipping, trading. And you'll see pictures of this is my sealed collection up for sale, and it's never the really rare stuff, the really exclusive stuff. It's always the common stuff, because it's easy to understand. The barrier to entry is very small. The other area of people that influenced in my opinion, the game and the hobby were sports collectors coming in and driving the price up. People that had no knowledge, they just wanted first edition base set box because they just said, give me the rarest thing and I'll pay whatever for it, because they have no knowledge of what the actual market is. They just have a spend that's through the roof and they don't care. But Pokemon has always been, in general, throughout its history, an average Joe's collectible game. There's only so many $1,000 bills that your average Pokemon collector has to just spend on a monthly basis. It's not, we don't have, your average collector does not have tens of thousands of dollars sitting around just waiting to drop on stuff. So I definitely think that picking up a few booster boxes of Modern and putting it in a closet is not the worst idea in the world, because it's easy to do. It can be fun. I mean, it's not unfun. So I think that is a good strategy for your average person. It's not the most optimized strategy, but it all depends on how much effort you want to put in, and a lot of people don't want to put that much effort in. So
I would compare it analogously to back when I was an advisor. For people that really wanted a hands-off approach on their portfolio, a great option is index mutual funds. right? It's just tracking a benchmark. It's like that passive versus active management strategy, where a passive manager is trying to keep pace with the market or a particular index, call it the S&P 500, and an active manager is actively trying to outperform the market. And I see that with something like Modern Seal, that's more of a passive management type of approach. It's kind of like, if you wanted to go through and you wanted to cultivate a portfolio based upon your risk tolerance and your time horizon and all those things, and you wanted to buy individual stocks and individual fixed income bonds and create that particular allocation, you could. Like, you could go out and you could do hundreds of those. Or you could go out and you could buy a Vanguard index mutual fund that has an 80-20 split, stocks to bonds, and it's already there for you. It reallocates on a consistent basis, and it's easy, right? And that's where something like booster boxes are easy. The supply is always going to go down, and it's really a matter of being able to hold it for the long term. Imagine your closet is like your traditional IRA. You touch that baby. You touch that baby before that due date. Guess what? You just pretend you're going to get hit with a penalty. Exactly.
True.
So that's kind of something I see, and I think above all else, I think diversification is key. I think that's in anything. I think the more you can diversify yourself from a micro approach, just talking about Pokemon, you go up a level, alternative assets, you go up to your overall, net portfolio of everything that you own. I think diversification is key. So this is a great way to enter, and then you can start to work your way as you become more knowledgeable into some of these other areas, graded cards, vintage products, more esoteric type of products, the older, rare, mint or better type of thing.
Also, if anyone's listening out there and you guys have kids, this is a great opportunity to teach your kids about this stuff, guys. Use Pokemon as a way to teach your kids about investing, and in a broader picture sense, just like Nav just said. Use it as a way to educate your kids. Okay, well, exact things that we're doing with Pokemon, well, let's look at how to do that with other vehicles through your portfolio too. And I think it's an area that just a lot of parents either don't know themselves or don't pass on. I had to learn a lot of that on my own. I have a lot of diversification across the portfolio that I have, that I've researched and done all on my own. But it's definitely something where someday, hopefully when I have kids, if they want to learn how to play collectible card games and want to get into what I'm doing and all this, I will more than happy. I'd love to sit down and show them exactly what it is and the logic behind it and the philosophy behind it, and then you can slowly transition your kids and make a life lesson out of it. If they get, I read a who was doing it? One of the YouTubers. I found out somebody on Instagram. Their kid was their nephew was down for the month or something, visiting from Canada, and he gave him 2 old Wizards of the Coast binders that he had because he was interested in trying to learn how to start he started his own eBay, and he just gave him 2 binders full of cards and said, here, start your store, and the kid turned like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 profit off of this.
Did you see that article? I can't remember what it was on, but it was about the 16-year-old kid that grossed over $1.7 million selling Pokemon cards, trading cards, video game consoles. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Insane.
Is it just Google it? I'll Google it later.
Yeah. I would just look up like teenager makes millions on Pokemon or something like that. But Joe, this Pokemon's just all about money nowadays. That's all anybody cares about, right? It's money, and this is like a new thing. I just had to throw that out there. We just talked about the Beckett price guides, and
I used to have those. Yeah.
Value is something that has always been inherent, not just to Pokemon, but to collectibles in general. Value and understanding value. Not only does it bring you a better awareness of its financial value, but to many people can also provide a little bit more of an understanding of its intrinsic or its sentimental value, right? For some of us, that value is in the rarity. That value is in things that we had from childhood that are no longer around. And I don't know. It's just to me, it's just such an ignorance and a fallacy that I see being permeated throughout the hobby right now, that I think just a lot of people aren't aware of. And I think it boils down again to that kind of financial acumen, right? When you look at it statistically, that Americans, 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Nobody gets taught financial knowledge, financial acumen in school, unless you actually study it yourself after you get out of school, or you are taught it, in university or some higher level. It just baffles me.
So this is interesting. I'm smiling ear to ear because this is an analogy. This is something that I've said a couple times, and I really dislike the disdain that's put forth towards people that associate any sort of value with cards, because I think what a lot of people are forgetting is that all we are doing is adult collecting. We are adult collecting, guys. There is no difference between what we are doing and when you're little Timmy on the playground and you have a Charizard and Billy has a Venusaur and a Blastoise and wants to trade you for your Charizard, and you say, well, Charizard's the best and I want to keep him, and then Timmy goes, oh, well, okay, I'll give you Venusaur, Blastoise, and Clefable. Okay, I'll trade you. It is the same thing. We are just using a middleman called money. That is the only difference.
Yep.
There's a middle vehicle in there called money that assigns an inherent intrinsic value to the cards that already have a rarity scheme behind them, and that's it. That is a fair. That is capitalism. That is a fair way to assign a rarity to something that has an arbitrary rarity otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
If it was not dollar bills and it was pelts that we were trading for, it'd be the same thing. That's it. I mean, that's all we're doing here, guys. The market dictates how rare your cards are. That's it. By the desirable of what people are willing to give for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's capitalism. It's laissez-faire. It's actually a very pure form of laissez-faire capitalism without any kind of impedance upon that. And there's going to be market movers, right? There's going to be influences.
Sure.
But that's in any market, right? And the thing that I love right now that I'm seeing in the Pokemon hobby is that people are becoming more knowledgeable. The people that are sticking around are wanting to educate themselves, and I feel lucky to be a part of that, right? To hopefully have a little bit of a positive influence on that, because that was my goal, and I see it on your channel as well, of being able to provide people with a little bit better acumen so that they can make smarter financial decisions, and so they can make decisions based upon the intrinsic value of a product, the inherent value of a product, rather than just falling into the zeitgeist of, hey, buy this because this PokeTuber said this, right?
Right, exactly.
Which we experienced a lot of that over 2020, and so it's good to see. It's really good to see that. All right, man, we are getting on in time here. Let's go ahead. Let's jump in real quick to PSA, and then we'll go ahead and jump into some questions from the chat. So really what I'm interested to hear from you, I know you recently had a submission return from PSA. One of the things, I still got 2 returns out. That I've got one from September and one from January that I've yet to get back. And what I've been trying to gather from people that are starting to get returns is if they're seeing a difference with the new AI incorporation of maybe a more strictness in the condition of cards that they're getting back compared to what they've seen in the past. So I'm just curious kind of what you've been seeing.
Sure. So short answer, then long answer. Short answer is no. I'd say I've seen about equal. Long, more detailed answer. I did just get a recent order back from PSA. It was a approximate 100 card order. Out of 100 cards, I got 10 tens. The 10. I would say, and I'm usually pretty humble. I have a pretty good eye. Mm-hmm. I'll never guarantee a 10, but I can tell you a 9. I can solidly tell you when something's a 9, and I can pretty solidly tell you when something's an 8 or a 7. I'll guess when something's a 10. Of the cards of the most recent submission that I got back, I was hopeful to get approximately 10 tens. Mm-hmm. So not exactly the ones that I thought were going to get 10s got 10s. Maybe there was 1 or 2 here or there that I thought might be 9, might be a 10, but it was about what I was expecting. Mm-hmm. without even knowing how the AI was going to affect it. I'm just going based off my experience of normal submissions. It was about what I was used to seeing. Um, there was only, out of all 100 cards, maybe 3 or 4 that I was genuinely surprised on that got lower grades than I really thought that they should have. But across the board, I thought it was mostly what I expected when I submitted that submission. In general, yeah, so that was a standard submission that I had submitted back in March that I just got back, to give you an estimate. So I believe their standard is actually caught up through complete now. I actually did, and I recorded the first part of the video. I'll record the second part when it comes back. I did a $200 service level send in for a couple cards.
Nice.
I have a couple cards that I bought a long time ago before the shutdown that I was planning on sending in at the $100 tier level, but after listening to I like listening to old school Pokemon and catch them all. Those guys are awesome. And you know, they were given their predictions about when PSA was going to reopen with any other service levels, and it was just so depressing hearing those predictions. I was like, oh, I'll gamble and pay the extra 100 on this service level and just send it in. Without telling you what the 2 cards or 3 cards are, they're ones where if they come back in 7s, I will be solid with a profit margin. If they come back in 6s, I'll probably break even. I'm anticipating that they're all 7s, and I'm willing to bet on my eye enough for the $100 risk. So I was like, all right, we'll send them in now. It's something to do. I hate sitting on cards. I have 5 of these ready to go.
Yeah.
For whenever. It's insane. I hate sitting on. I have such a large collection that I need to grade that I'm going to be grading cards till I'm a grandpa. I just am. It's and I'm one of those people that I just don't like idle hands. Like I like flow. I like moving. I like action. You know, I don't like sitting and waiting around. And one of the things I've been doing recently is for a lot of the people out there that are trying to still flip and still trying to see some return on investment, trying to get that capital to maybe start up your online store or make a bigger move, get a trophy card, get something that you actually want. You know, you gotta get some capital from somewhere, and one of the easiest ways to do it is to flip small collections. So I'm starting to track monthly data on sales for CGC cards in 8s and 9s, grades 8s and 9s, not 10s, because you hit a 10, you hit a 10. But
which are pretty much non-existent with CGC.
They're pretty much non-existent, exactly. And I told myself, so I did a CGC submission back in March. I did a 150 card CGC submission that was all gold stars, all crystals, shinings, Masaki promos. Like it was big hits. And without going into how much I ran every card through PWCC, and without going into what the actual profit was, I saw a 20 to 30% less return than I would have had I done the same thing with PSA and ran it through standard delivery and PSA. So after that, I told myself, no more CGC. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. There's no reason to put a card in an inferior case. Long term, there's just no reason to. PSA will always command a higher price tag. It's just for multiple reasons we could get into, but they just will. So, but the one thing when I told myself that, the one thing I did not take into consideration was PSA shutting down. And I don't know when they're going to reopen anything near a manageable grading service level. I don't want to wait 2 years to submit cards. I just don't.
Yeah.
And then a year on top of that to get them back. Like, it's insane. So one of the things I'm doing is actually looking at CGC monthly sales in 8s and 9s and doing a cost breakdown of what it costs to acquire the card raw, plus grading fees, plus service fees of selling the card, and giving realistic profit margins, because CGC doesn't track a pop or an auction history report like PSA does. This data's not out there. Nobody tracks this data.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that need to make decisions about where to send their cards for grading. where do I send my cards? Do I wait? Do I send them? Do I need the money now? Like,
Hmm.
CGC recently posted on their website that they reduced the turnaround times. Um, their turnaround times dropped
Hmm.
across the board, which means
CGC has done they've done fantastic. I would say of all the different companies, the at least the big three, CGC, PSA, and Beckett, they have done the absolute best job of managing their business throughout this whole period of time. I have actually been very impressed with what they've
100%
done.
agree. I personally like CGC. I
Hmm.
personally do. I like the way they run their business. I think that they suffer from an unfortunate situation in the market, which is brand loyalty. And when you're looking at it from an investment perspective, trying to get the most out of your dollar, I think it's unfortunate that PSA still commands what they command. But we're talking about, we're all a bunch of nerds with OCD, and if you start a collection in PSA, more than likely you're going to have that segment that just wants to stick with PSA. It's just the way
Yeah.
it's going to be. They don't want
Hmm.
their card in a different case. I mean, I've even heard Catch 'em All go as far as talking about, when PSA redesigns their case, which they announced is going to happen with an inner sleeve,
Yeah.
they're going to be put that there's going to be people that are like, well, I don't want the inner sleeve, I want this one because it doesn't match, and it's like, it gets so specific and your buyer pool just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, as opposed to, appealing to the most people you can with what you have. And when you're looking at, from personally, I believe when you're looking at it from a business perspective, you have to take personal preferences out of the equation. Just look at it as what's best for the money that I can get out of this, when you have other goals in mind.
Hmm.
Like, when you're trying to sell these cards, it's not an evil thing to do. Somewhere out there's a kid who really wants a first edition Blastoise from PSA, and you're going to make that kid very happy by selling it to him. But you're going to do yourself a disservice if you don't want to keep it, and by putting it in a case where you're not going to get as much money unless you need to move that card quickly. So
Hmm.
these are all factors that people have to take into consideration for themselves and what works best for you. I have probably 1,000 cards that I do not need to wait for PSA on. I intended to, but I don't want to wait 2 years to send these cards in. I'd rather take a 20% hit on them to move them within a reasonable time frame. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm looking at, because I there are cards that I have always wanted for my collection, and they're trophy level cards. There's some up on PWCC. We got about an hour left that I would really love to bid on, that I've never been able to have in my collection. That, it would be a lot easier to pull that trigger had I, if I had just a little more capital in the bank. So I'm looking at basically taking, one of these and converting it to one of those trophy cards. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't want those. I want that.
Right.
And what's the
Exactly.
quickest way to get you to it? It's all it is. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the thing that I really like about CGC is, I'm always looking for opportunities, right? Like I feel like I'm more inherently a value investor. And when I look at CGC and I look at the price differential from let's say an equivalently graded CGC 9 to a PSA 9, and I see that price disparity there, I'm thinking to myself, that's a huge opportunity, because if at some point, let's say you pick up that card, and at some point in
You're
the
gonna read.
future when PSA opens, you decide, hey, I've got a CGC 9, which is tough. It's like getting a CGC 9 is not easy, especially a 9.5, and we won't even speak of the untold CGC 10s. But if you wanted to get that regraded and that premium is still there with PSA, your cost basis for that card is significantly lower than what you would have gotten getting that in an equivalent graded PSA 9. So I see a big opportunity there. I also see it as an opportunity that if, in fact, CGC does start to compare with PSA, where the market of CGC cards starts to level out with PSA, again, you've picked it up at a much lower cost basis now. So to me, there's risk in anything, but when I see that and I look at a CGC card, and for flippers out there as well, it's the only opportunity in town right now. CGC is
Yep.
to get any kind of turnaround and to build that capital and to have cash flow to move into other areas. That's really your only option. So I see a lot of opportunity right now with CGC on several levels, and I honestly think, for me personally, when I look at the long-term scope of this and I see more of an introduction of AI, I think that there is going to be less uh, of a distinguish between the various grading companies. I think personally that PSA is going to go completely away from their economy, their bulk submissions. I think PSA
Interesting.
is going to go almost entirely to high-end type of cards, where there's like a threshold where the like expected value of that card has to be a certain threshold, and that's what PSA is going to take on. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a decision that comes down from upper management, or if
Right.
that's something that basically is sort of self-imposed because of the price increases of getting your cards graded through PSA, where the vast majority of the market just is kind of priced out, and then PSA says, you know what, we're going to rebrand ourselves as the premium outlet for getting your high-end cards graded, and then perhaps CGC then steps in as your bulk submitter.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't considered. I would personally be very sad if that happened. Wow. Yeah, that's I think that would be unfortunate. I think if that happened, you'd still get. So I've heard people say, if the new floor is $50, we'll say is the lowest tier, would that raise the floor on all cards automatically by $50, even your less common cards, just by the pure desirability of having it in a PSA case for certain collectors out there? And I think that may happen for some cards. I mean, you're always going to have Pokemon collectors that want a complete PSA 10 set, for instance, and that means you have to grade certain common or uncommon cards, and you might have to pay that $50 or $100 to grade those. But I think the risk factor is just too high for a lot of that. I mean, you're going to have people that are going to do it probably, but if that happens, I 100% agree that most people are going to move to something like CGC then for our hobby. It might just be the non-sports card hobby for them, like the only place to go to get. And I think that's sad. I would really not like to see PSA do that. There's a lot of things I like about PSA. I like their submission process. I find it a lot easier to use than CGC's website. I like their. I personally prefer PSA's case. I'll be honest. I don't dislike CGC's, and I don't have a preference. I'll take the grade over the case. But if I'm being objective, I understand why people prefer PSA. I don't know. I don't like what their management's doing, and I haven't since they were bought out.
Well, and think about it from their perspective, right? From the business perspective, from
Makes
a profit
sense.
standpoint. Like if you think about it, if you've got
Makes sense.
if you're charging $50 a card and you're getting 100 submissions, versus if you're charging $100 a card and you're getting 50 submissions, your profit's the same either way.
Still the same. They're probably looking at it like their backlog is so ridiculous at this point anyway. They don't have to have as much staff on hand. They could reduce the staff and make the same exact amount of money. I get it. From a business perspective, it is smart. I really wonder if they do that I think you would see a huge influx to CGC, because I think there's a lot of people like me that are just holding right now, holding and not sending anything in, hoping PSA opens. And if they make that announcement, I don't think they'll make the announcement for a really long time if that's true. I think they'll keep people out there on that leash. I don't think that you're going to see a PSA announcement saying we're suspending indefinitely bulk. Like, I think that it's just.
I think it's going to be a phasing approach, honestly. If they do it, I don't think there's going to be any big announcement. I think what they'll do is they're just going to extend the amount of time that they have one tier open, and then maybe they open up, like this high class tier, and then they just continue to do that until everybody slowly becomes accustomed to it, and then that's just their business model.
Did you watch Randolph's video on ace grading that he
Dude,
opened up? And
I've been trying to get Randy on the pod. I wanted to get him on the
that would
podcast
be
relatively soon to talk about it because so when I had him on last time, he was hinting towards it. I tried to get him to divulge
I
a
saw
little
that.
bit, but he wouldn't bite. So now that we know exactly what it is, I wanted to get him back on to chat about it. It's great for Europe. It's great for the UK because they don't really have much over there, right?
Agree.
So. I think Randy, I like that, he had such a strong hand in it because he is a collector. He has such a passion for the hobby, and I like to see that. I like to see the beginnings of a company from somebody that is in it, right? That's knee deep in it. And so I think Randy's a perfect fit for that.
The one innovation he had that I watched from his intro video that I thought was like, that's a perfect idea is the way he's doing his tiered services, how they open and close based on demand, like almost instantaneously. Like it's all the whole process is automated. The services on the website will open and close themselves based on submissions and based on turnaround times. If they get something completed through, a lower service grade, almost like will be unlocked, like a bonus round or something. And then if the backlog gets too much, it'll lock itself out again, and it's constantly variable. I was like, that is a fantastic idea. Why can't see, like, this is one man starting this company, and you have. This is what annoyed the heck out of me when PSA shut down, because I had ideas about, like, little old me over here. I was like, you're telling me you have a boardroom full of people and nobody could come up with another idea other than shut everything down? Like, that's where we got to.
The difference is they've got shareholders, right? They've got people that they have to appease. Collectors Universe has shareholders they have to appease. Now I know that PSA Collectors Universe is now a privately held entity, right? So you don't necessarily have those obligations anymore, but they have obligations to meet that bottom line. And if they find a way where they can reduce staff, they can reduce overhead, they can cut all of these other costs while still maintaining their economies of scale, I mean, that
makes sense.
Unfortunately, that's just what they're going to do. But that's where innovators like somebody like Randy can really step in and change the game. We see that all the time. You see that, like, look at the car manufacturing industry, where it was just done the same thing, all the big manufacturers for years and years, and then all of a sudden you got Elon Musk that steps in there, and it's just a complete game changer. And now look at how many car manufacturers now are putting out electric vehicles, if not hybrid vehicles, putting those out in masses because they understand now the game has changed.
It's what the people want.
It's what the people want. Exactly. So I my hat's off to him and getting this started, because that's ultimately what industry needs when it's sat stagnant for a long period of time. It needs people like that.
I agree. I mean, I'll use them. I'll send stuff into them when they open.
Yeah.
I liked it. I loved almost everything about. I loved almost everything about what he came out with that on that intro video. I was like, but I mean, the U.S. isn't opening. Understandably, I mean, cater to your UK folks. They've had it so bad for so long. Absolutely. But eventually, he will open a U.S. for submission too, as well as the rest of Europe. And I'm gonna send a bunch of stuff over. It's awesome.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, just to support him, just for what he's doing, and to being an entrepreneur and really trying to do something good, I think, for the hobby and trying to change the way that things are done.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I think we'll go ahead and jump into our lightning round for questions. So everybody that's listening, watching right now, go ahead and start throwing your questions in the chat. If you guys would, go ahead and just throw either Echo-Based Collectables at the beginning of your question, at Echo-Based Collectables, or at PokéNav. If you've got a question that's specifically directed at either of us, or if it's just a general question, then we'll just both kind of give our take on it. And we'll try to keep these quick. We'll try to keep it, concise if we can. That usually is never the case.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially with guys that like to talk. Everybody that I talk to also likes to talk a lot as well. That's why the conversations are always good. I don't think you can be a YouTuber, right? I don't think you could be a YouTuber and not be able to talk a lot.
Yep, agree.
All right, let's see. I know there's a little bit of a lag here. I'm gonna roll back through the chat and just see Here's one from Empire of Nostalgia. This is a little older question. Hey, Nav, I understand you say time in the market beats timing the market. Well, what happens if Pokemon is no longer cool anymore? And booster boxes do go for under MSRP. Pokemon are printing like 2017. So what I would say here is that when I say time in the market versus timing the market, so what you focus on when you're a long-term investor, you'll see, like you look at graphs, right? And you can see all of those squiggly lines up and down, up and down, up and down. What long-term investors, what we really focus on is our cost basis, our initial purchase price, and where our end goal is, 5 years, 10 years, however long that is. That's what we care about. All of those ebbs and flows in between, that makes no difference to us, right? So we don't care if it's a bear market, bull market, anything like that. All we care is that point in the future at which we anticipate to sell. Now, to answer your question, if Pokemon is no longer popular, I think that's a question of relevancy, right? So, or I should say relativity rather. So relative to 2020, is that relative to 2016? What is popular? That's kind of a subjective term. To me, as long as Pokemon is a business entity, as long as Pokemon is continuing to put out more products, video games, anime, things like that, it's always going to be relevant. It's always going to be embedded in the social consciousness. And if we even give the hypothetical that, let's say, Pokemon does go under as a company, typically what we see is about a 10 to 20 year, if not longer, time frame where that hobby is still very much relevant. It's still embedded in pop culture. And this is actually, I'd like to take credit for this sentiment, but this is actually coming from King Pokemon himself, who's been involved in a lot of different hobbies. And he said the same thing, that even if Pokemon was to go under, you look at the collectibles market, and it's about 20 years that particular hobby is still quite popular, and it may even get more popular after the company is dissolved, right? Because it's no longer there. It's no longer there. Yeah, Dragon Ball.
DBZ score. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It's more popular now, I would say, than it was during its release during the early 2000s, and that's because it's no longer around. Dragon Ball Super has now come around, that has sort of taken the reins, and now people are like, hey, I really like Dragon Ball Super, but I really got into Dragon Ball Z, and they start to get into those scorecards. So hopefully that answers your question, and we'll go ahead and move on here. I think Mason Barry's got one for you, Joe. It says, hey, Joe, love to listen to your memories and history of the game. Please flex what your favorite card of your collection is.
Does you actually want me to get it?
Is it nearby?
Let me see. Yeah, probably. All right. Favorite card. I'm really a fan of no HP Persians. I really like the no HP Persians.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a card. I'll get it. Hold on. It's not a card. It is an item that is essentially cards, though. Hold on. I don't pull this out very often.
It's going deep into the.
This is a uncut sheet.
Wow.
From
Genghis Khan and Vaporeon.
Yeah, from Jungle, obviously.
Wow.
Not one of the KB, obviously not one of the Fossil KB Toy Store sheets, but this is one of the ones that actually has printed on the bottom. I need to frame it. I really need to frame it. It's survived like 4 moves now. I got that at the Fan Appreciation Tournament back in '99. And there was a time you could pick those up on eBay for like $200-300 a piece, like readily available. Like, I mean, I probably have seen like 10, somewhere between 10 and 50 of them go up on eBay over the years. But I have not seen one of those become available in a very, very long time. The ones you see come up all the time are the KB Toy Store promotional ones from Fossil. But yeah, that's probably my favorite item. I mean, I have awesome. a lot of rare stuff, but that's the one I'd pick. Yeah.
Oh, those are so cool. I remember seeing one of those for the first time. Gosh, it was probably 2016 on TCA Gaming, and I was just like,
oh, cool.
No way those exist. Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Goji Collectables has got one for me. What do you think for Wizard of the Coast sealed boxes, for example, Team Rocket Unlimited? One of the things that I'm seeing right now, can't speak to Team Rocket. I haven't checked the prices on that recently, but base set unlimited booster boxes last sold listing on eBay went for $14,999. Absolutely,
that seems really low.
Absolutely
Wow.
insane, guys. I mean, I think at its peak last year, base set unlimited was going for almost 40,000 a booster box. And so I think here's a two-part answer for you, and I'm going to make this quick. I think that vintage boxes are probably not, especially unlimited boxes, are probably not as rare, again, relatively speaking here, as we initially thought. However, prices have been dropping, and I guess it's just a matter of how low do you want it to go before you jump in on something like that, right? Because we're talking about like modern, buying it now. Where's it going to be at in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years with boxes being opened? Guess what? They're going to continue to open up base set unlimited booster boxes, and those are much rarer than anything that you're seeing now. So
Yeah.
I would say that it's really relative to your financial position, how much you want to, offload onto a single product. But yeah, the products, they're still not as low as they were at one point. I do remember base set unlimited booster boxes, even early last year, were around like $9,000, maybe even lower than that. So they still haven't reached that kind of floor yet. And I don't know that they will necessarily. But, just kind of as a umbrella answer for you, I would say that just keep an eye on those type of things. If they continue to drop, you just have to consider of when you want to jump in, because something like that, again, it's just going to get rarer and rarer. It's just the supply is just going to continue to go down. People are just going to continue to open those things up. So it's just a matter of how much do you want to tie up on one single product.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, if I had a larger portion of capital available, I would definitely jump in on those at this point. You could probably, if you want to risk it, you could probably time the market a little bit more and maybe get them a couple grand less overall. But that's a percentage I'd be willing to risk as far as the upside potential of getting them now, as opposed to missing out on the upswing whenever that happens. I mean, yeah, I 14,000 for a base unlimited booster box was unheard of months ago. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I think that's a solid price. I think that's a price that is a good buy price for that. Knowing how old it is, its rarity. I mean, I got an email from my distributor that certain XY boxes from the distributor, they found a stock. They were selling them for $4,500. I don't remember which one it was.
Oh yeah, we got that as well. Yeah,
You got that same one?
going
Oh my God.
going all the way back, and that again, just another pain point with distributors for me. I wonder if they just like sit on these caches of products for a period of time and then come and try to like dump it back onto the market, at just slightly under market price. But yeah, going all the way back to black and white, actually.
Right.
Ancient Origins, well, that's XY,
Yeah.
but going back to black and white base set, going emerging powers, like all of those were ready. You could buy them.
And at what, like 4,200 a box? I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what, 1/3 the price you're going to get a base set booster box at.
Right,
I think it's a good price.
for sure.
Personally.
Let's see, PokéNoll, thoughts on Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs? If you can get your hands on some, which it doesn't look like you're going to anymore, at least for Evolving Skies, probably worth snagging, especially like Joe was saying with the exclusive products that are in there that they're going to send you. Probably, good thing to hold on to long term. Space Ghost Dave's got a question for you, Joe. What are your thoughts on Japanese sealed product long term?
Depends on the set. I think so. CP6, great example. CP6 is just rocketed through the moon. So you have to look at the organic demand of the set, which is pretty easy to do with Japanese sets, because they have an identity to them. So what I would say to that is, look at what sells out in Japan. Look at what the Japanese people want and what the market wants, because those are the sets that are going. I mean, use your knowledge. See, this is where there's sometimes that I can't give all the answers. A lot of this comes from playing the card game and knowing the cards.
Mm-hmm.
I can look at a set list and tell you if it's going to be a popular set or not. I've been doing this so long. I can look at a set list and say, I I mean, I looked at Battle Styles and was like, not going to be that popular of a set. Chilling Reigns doesn't hit me so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I might change that opinion a little bit more if I was competitively playing with it, but in general, no. Evolving Skies, it's a good set. EV Heroes, great set. Shining Star V, fantastic set. But you should be able to. You have to tune your Poke Radar in your head to be able to look at a set list before it comes out and know if it's going to be popular or not. And that takes a little bit of time to start to pick up. Like those Rayquaza full art alternate arts for the V and the V Max, those things are gorgeous. Of course that set's going to be popular years from now. So yes, in my opinion, booster boxes, Japanese, if you can get them cheap enough, they are good holds. If it's a good popular set. But like we were saying earlier, on the other hand, almost every set is good to pick up and hold. It's for some point for something, for opening. So
just a matter of how long.
Exactly. Yep.
Let's see, Ryo, pretty good piggyback question here. He says, when a chase card in Japanese set gets released as a promo in English, how does it affect the Japanese version of the card as well as the set? For example, Shiny Star V, full art Marnie. And that is a very good question.
Yeah.
It's not always one for one, right? It doesn't always. You don't always see. You would think that it gets released in an English version as a promo, that it would degrade the value of the Japanese equivalent, right? But that's not always the case. We don't always see that. You gave an example there, the Shiny Star V full art Marnie, and that is an example of that. But we've
players
promos, exactly. It's not always a one for one there. I don't know, to try to say like what is that determining factor that indicates that off the top of my head. Maybe you can chime in on that.
Popularity of the card. I think if a card comes out in Japan first as a promo and it hits, it just strikes that chord with people. It doesn't matter if it's released in English in a promo or in a set or anything. People are still going to want it. The exclusivity of that card as a promo in Japanese. The Gold Star Pop promos, great example. They came out in English. Yes, they're rare, so we're going to get a reprint of Gold Star Umbreon. Same artwork. I don't think it's going to do a darn thing to either the English Pop card or the one, because they're still rare. Like that's like saying, oh, they released Super Smash Brothers Melee Edition, Special Edition. That's not going to decrease the value. Okay. So there's a Shadowless Charizard and there's first edition Charizard. Both are extremely rare. But it's the same artwork. It's the same artwork. There are people in this hobby that collect minute differences of cards. And if it's popular enough of a card, it's not going to matter that it came out here as a promo and in Japan. It's still exclusive. That particular card in Japan is its own thing, and it's going to retain its exclusivity.
I think that a good example of that, if we were to see it, would be the Espeon promo from the Evolution set, the Espeon VMAX. I think that's something that, if we did see a reprint of that, I think that that particular promo from the EV box would still hold a strong value.
I agree, 100%. Yep.
Let's see here. Just got a few more questions. Blast Boost 86. PokéNav, I have a first edition Wizard of the Coast Commons. Do you think I should send them to get graded at PSA no matter what, all in mint condition? See, that's the thing. If you think that if they're truly in, which is a very, this is where you have to scrutinize yourself, right? And you have to scrutinize your eye and what you see in your cards, because we all want mint. You have to say to yourself, are these truly gem mint cards? If that's the case, you think these are like 9 and above, then I would say hold off for PSA as things stand. If these are things like you're trying to complete a master set, you want the highest premium possible. And that, as things stand, is with PSA. Now, if you think it's below that, PSA is still going to hold the premium, but you can flip a lot faster if that's your goal, or if you just want to hold it, then really doesn't matter. Go with whoever you want. But if you're looking to flip and you're looking to get those back onto the secondary market, then CGC is probably going to be your best option. But if you want to wait for that higher premium, then I would say hold out for PSA. What do you think, Joe?
Absolutely agree. The one thing that neither of us have mentioned that's a downside with CGC are the half grades. I hate the half grade scaling system. I have been burned so many times with 8.5s and 9.5s that if I would have graded them in PSA,
Yeah.
you're going to get one or the other. You're going to get a 9 or a 10, or you're going to get an 8. And an 8 is an 8, and a 9 is a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And with cards like those, your margins on them are so small to begin with. You're really, so I have this dilemma too, because I have a ton of first edition commons, uncommons from Wizards of the Coast. And what I would say is some good advice is you don't have to send everything all at once either. Pick out your 20 cards that you think are the best condition ones, and make them more popular Pokemon. So pick out your Rocket Flareon, Dark Flareons, and your base set Charmanders. Not that you might have any of those first edition, but your Jungle Pikachu first edition, stuff that's a little easier to acquire that you might have a lot of. Pick 1 or 2 copies of each card. So make a 20 card submission and send it. And wait. You might have to wait, but wait. Test the waters. See what happens. It takes longer, but on the other hand, there's less risk. There's less risk. If you're not that sure, if you don't want to bite off a $10,000 grading bill or a $6,000 grading bill for sending it all because you're not sure, then test it. Send a couple at a time. See how good your eye actually is. Work the system. Now, if you're experienced and you've done this before and you're sure, then yes, I would definitely hold off. I would hold out for PSA. That's my advice at this point.
Yeah. No, very good. Very good. Poke Nostalgia, simple one for both of you. Which English Celebrations product are you most stoked for? For me personally, from a collectible standpoint, I love the Golden Box from Japan. From an investment standpoint, I would have to go with the Ultra Premium Box. They're going to get a base set reprint of both Pikachu and Charizard in there. We already had confirmed that there's a full art base set reprint of Pikachu, also illustrated by the man himself, Mitsuhiro Arita. So if we get confirmation that we might get that in the Ultra Premium Box and the Charizard, perhaps even a full art, that's going to be probably the big investment piece. But collectible, I really like the Golden Box. What about you, Joe?
Can you imagine a full art Charizard in that box? Oh, that would be so sick. I'd love that.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. I personally am actually more looking forward to the Japanese 25th anniversary set than the English. I like the 25th symbol that they have on their cards better than our Pikachu symbol.
Yeah.
I wish we did the same thing. So personally, I'm going to pick up a lot of the Japanese product too, because I want to complete a Japanese set. That's personally what I'm looking forward to doing more than anything. From an investment standpoint, I agree with the premium collection box, and as a second or runner-up, I would say the ETBs are a good hold on those two. Based off of the Generations ETB, where that thing went,
Yeah.
I think, it's the next product that gives you the most packs, I believe, per product. So as per dollar, I think that gives you the most promo 4 card packs of anything else other than the premium collection box, which is going to be hard to get. The ETBs are going to be your everyday thing that you're probably going to be able to find in stores.
Yeah.
So I think if you can grab 6, 7, 8 of those and stick them away, that's not a bad decision.
All right, let's see. I don't want to try not to miss anyone's question. Elsie says, what do you think of the Poke Park promo, specifically Forest File and the alternate sets you could only get on rides? I've only seen that live. I've only had a little bit of a cursory knowledge of those. Maybe you're a little more familiar.
I sold 2 of each. I sold them. I have heard this. I have heard more people talk about these Poke Park promos in the last 2 weeks. Then I don't know what it is about these promos, but everyone's talking about them now. I don't know if it's
somebody must have said something.
So, this dude must want. I think Pratt got this question. I think they're fantastic. I love them. I got them when they came out back in the day. I've held them since then. The artwork's unique. They're fantastic. They're like the Unknown Southern Islands set. It's the same type of idea behind the set. I'm just laughing because I sold one binder now. I sold the same binder for 800 sealed on eBay 3 different times and had it returned to me twice. 2 different buyers returned the same thing to me. It's just funny. Finally, before somebody bought it and kept it. That's why I'm laughing, because it's the only product that's happened for me with. So it took 3 buyers to buy it and keep it. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, they're great. They're great. If you can find them on Japanese sites. So I'll give you some sales data. I sold the forest ones for 11. 2 sales outside of eBay, and then I sold 2 of the blue ones for 600 and 700 respectively. 1 for 6, 1 for 7. So if you can find them less than that, they're good investment pieces, I think. And if people catch on, they're going to be worth more. How rare they actually are. They're pretty rare. They're pretty underprinted, from what I remember. Yeah.
I need to start looking into those a little bit more, because like I said, I've just had kind of a little cursory knowledge of them, and there's just, that's the thing. You know this, right? It's just, the hobby's just so vast. And
it's massive.
It's just so hard to try to keep up with everything. All right, let's see here. We'll go ahead and end on this question here from Nolan MB. It's for you, Joe. What do you think about the price differential between Neo Destiny Shinings in English and Japanese? Is that purely a function of pull rate?
Pull rate. Well, the thing you have to remember is that, and this goes back to when they came out, you could probably track this graph throughout time. The Japanese ultra rares have always lagged behind the English ultra rares for set cards. They have not been traditionally as sought after in the English market. I personally, they're in another binder. I have them all, but I'm one of those people. I prefer a lot of the Japanese cards over the English cards. I always have. Back in the day, you could acquire Japanese boxes cheaper than English boxes, and you could play the cards in tournaments as long as you had an English copy outside the deck for translation. I could play 4 Japanese cards and keep 1 English card outside the deck. So why wouldn't I buy the Japanese boxes? Because they're cheaper, and I get the same amount I get more cards for the same price. So it just made sense from a player's perspective. It made sense. I think they look cooler too, personally. So I always love buying Japanese cards. But the chase rares, yes, he is correct. The pull rates are higher on those cards for Japanese boxes, so you do have to keep that in mind. The pull rates are higher for Destiny Shinings in Japan. What you also have to keep in mind is they didn't do first edition back then either. So are we talking a first edition Charizard from Destiny or an unlimited Charizard from Destiny? So there's like if it's first edition, it's a no-brainer. It's first edition, that's why it's more valuable. But in general, I think that they've always been undervalued. I would like to see them go up in price and get the respect that I think they deserve. The same thing for any of those early set Japanese ultra rares. I think they're beautiful cards, and I think that they're undervalued. That's my personal opinion. Underappreciated might be the better word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Japanese as a whole is really making a resurgence, in my opinion, not just with modern, but with vintage as well.
Yeah, it's something that's interesting. Like when I was collecting the first time around, the Japanese stuff was seen. It was held to a higher pedigree. Like people respected it because that's where all the exclusive promos came from. Like I remember as a kid getting Beckett price guides and seeing Japanese Happy Birthday Pikachu, Trophy Kangaskhan, Unicarp. All these cards that were like, and seeing the prices of them, and it was like, wow, like the Japanese stuff is so much more expensive and exclusive, and then hearing, all the folks talk about modern and how it fell off over the last couple of years. It's kind of sad to hear because I do in general like the Japanese cards better. I always have. I just think that they're better set identity. The card stock is always better. The card stock is far superior. The silver borders always hit better. And I just like the way the Kana looks on the cards. I don't know. I just like them better than our cards. Always have.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, certainly appreciate the questions, and I think we will go ahead and wrap it up there for tonight. Joe, I just want to give you a huge shout out, man. Big thank you for jumping on, and I'm glad that we can finally see this come to fruition.
It was fantastic. I loved it. It was great every minute. I do have one question for you real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you get that Pikachu?
This Pikachu, my mom actually found this. This was actually sitting in our attic at my childhood home for years and years and years. And then they were my parents, they just bought another home. They live up in northern Arizona. They just bought another home down here, and they were kind of cleaning out some of their stuff up there and came across this, and I couldn't find any tags on it, but I want to say this thing is probably from about like 2002, maybe 2001.
Oh.
And so when she said, hey, I'm thinking about throwing this away, I said, don't. I said, give me that thing. And
that thing is fantastic.
I call him Colonel Pikachu because with the way that he's kind of like slanted in the front, he kind of looks like Colonel Sanders a little bit with that beard.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
but yeah,
I've been wanting to ask you that.
Yeah, he's been around for a while. We're actually this is probably going to be one of the last videos in this room. We just closed on another home today, actually. God,
congratulations.
Thank you. So we're going to be moving into that, and this will be one of the last videos in here, and then I'll be kind of putting my studio together and probably featuring more of like my graded cards, some sealed products, stuff like that. Oh, that would be cool in the new one. But we move so often that it's just like to get everything, and I've got stuff in safe deposit boxes, and it's just like I've never really got around to like kind of crafting a room, and I kind of knew that we wouldn't be here long term. So hopefully with the new navigation station, I'll be able to have kind of more displayed in there. And guarantee right Chunky Pikachu, Colonel Sanders Pikachu, he'll be there.
He's got to come along for the ride.
Oh, of course. He's my partner in crime now.
That's awesome.
But hey, Joe, before we sign off here, just want to give you the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you, all your social media channels, all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's pretty simple. It's Echo-based Collectables across everything. Instagram, website, YouTube. It's just echo-based-collectables.com, whichever. Interesting story behind that, but I'll save that for another time about how I chose the name and everything. But, yeah. Okay. It's a Star Wars reference. It's from Hoth. That was Echo-based on Hoth from Star Wars.
Okay. I know nothing about Star Wars, so I'll take you on your word.
Oh no. Yeah, that's. But yeah, I would. Yeah, if you guys want to come over and subscribe, it'd be great. I'd appreciate it. I always love when people watch and then comment on my videos. I like interacting. I like communicating with people. It's fun. So yeah, it's huge shout out to Nav. This has been a ton of fun. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course,
great, man.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime. We'll definitely carve out another spot to have you on. I think everybody really enjoyed it. The chat was pretty lively tonight, so we'll definitely schedule that again. Cool. Maybe after Evolving Skies or Celebrations or something like that, we can come on and talk about how much we either loved it or hated it and how we didn't get anything. So, did I cut out on you?
You cut out on me for a second, okay. Yeah.
Oh, yep, and it's probably a good time to saying that my internet is unstable right now, so probably a good time to go ahead and sign off. New house, another nice thing about the new house, going to be getting about 1,000 megs of download speed, so I'm super excited about that. So hopefully we won't have interruptions anymore in the streams. But Joe, again, hey man, big thank you for coming on, and we will certainly have you on again.
Pleasure.
And big shout out to all of you out there. As always, thank you so much for joining in. Whether you're watching, listening, we certainly appreciate the support, both of myself and of Joe over at Echo-based Collectables. And other than that, guys, we will see you next time right here on the Pokemon Masterclass. Take care, everybody.